Hello, it's Daryl here with a quick preamble. We've got a great show for you today. We've got 4 listener questions for you. I think in the intro you'll hear me say 5. I just can't count. We have 4 questions for you about quick free kicks, why Barcelona chose their coach, should Jozy Altidore be a starter for the US men's national team, and what is our coaching philosophy. Someone actually wanted to know, what is the coaching philosophy of Taylor Rockwell and Daryl Grove when we coach our Sunday amateur team? And we answered. There's also some US men's national team news and notes as we start gearing up for that big Panama game. Today's show is brought to you by SeatGeek, the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events, which obviously includes soccer. Listeners can get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Download the SeatGeek app, enter promo code TSS, that's TSS, for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who doesn't have the luxury of seeing new faces on his podcast. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello, you're stuck with my face again.
Hello, not at this point in time, maybe in the future, but right now we're very focused on getting the results we need to continue the podcast and get to the Podcast World Cup.
Podcast World Cup?
Oh, yeah.
I'm in.
Yep.
So we're going to be doing listener questions today, but first we've got some US men's national team news and notes, is what I'm going to call it. First is a quote from Bruce Arena. I saw it from Ives Galasset reported this. Stephen Goff reported something similar. Bruce Arena has essentially said, no new faces for the big qualifiers against Panama and Trinidad. Is that a fair summary of what he said?
Yeah, Ives asked Bruce Arena about the likelihood of seeing new faces in the October qualifiers. He responded, we don't have the luxury of doing that.
And for the record, I take new faces to mean essentially Weston McKennie or, in my dreams, Tyler Adams.
And maybe Danny Williams as well.
Maybe Danny Williams would be a new face that Arena's never seen.
Yeah.
So I guess hopes dashed, or just this is kind of what we expected?
I mean, it's kind of what we expected. I think he's going to go with what's worked for him, and that's kind of what we expect from Bruce Arena. I can't say I blame him, but I also can say I'm a little disappointed in that.
I would have liked to at least hold out hope until the roster was announced that McKennie's name would be on there. My thinking is maybe long-term, Weston McKenna. And by long-term, I mean in the run-up to the 2018 World Cup. McKennie gets his chance. Tyler Adams gets his chance. It could happen still.
Yeah, I think so. I know some people were worried then that means, does that mean he's just going to stick with the same players we've seen? Not necessarily, because, for example, DeAndre Yedlin has missed games due to injury. Yes. Not because, Bruce Arena doesn't like him. Yeah. So I think we will definitely see him called back into the squad.
Yedlin starts when he's fit for Bruce Arena. That's been the pattern. So do not worry about that.
There we go.
So Weston McKennie's future, the other news and notes from the US men's national team, I believe he signed a new contract with Schalke until some weirdly futuristic year, like 2022.
There it is.
Which sounds like it's in a sci-fi novel, but it's actually the length of McKennie's contract.
Yes. Also not that far away, Daryl. It's really not.
But if you just read some older sci-fi from the 80s or 90s, 2022 is this imagined time where there's flying cars.
I believe I've mentioned this on many occasions, but I just want to point out once again that Demolition Man, which came out, I believe, in 1993, posits that in 1996 we live in a dystopian future.
Oh, really?
Just throwing that out there.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, I mean, like Hollywood is on fire in 1996. All of Hollywood is on fire in 1996 in that movie, and I think it's set in 2030.
Who wins the Euros in Demolition Man? Is it still Germany?
I'm trying to think if there are any people that aren't American in that movie, and the answer is, I guess, Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes, Simon Phoenix, and his gang of miscreants that he frees from ice jail are the ones who win the Euros, I think.
Demolition Man, accidentally brilliant. Someone who's deliberately
invented the iPad. I'm just saying.
Someone who's deliberately brilliant. Christian Politic. Obviously, we're big fans of Politic on the Total Soccer Show.
Wait, are we done talking about Weston McKennie?
You got any more to say?
I went on a 2-minute ramble about Demolition Man.
It's great that he signed a new contract. It's kind of expected, I think, after I want to say, establishing himself in the first team. I know he started the last 2 games, subbed out both of them, but definitely is part of the first team squad going forward. I expect a mix of some starts, some substitute appearances, occasional non-appearances, but we're going to be watching Schalke every week now with some expectation that McKennie may be involved.
Yeah, we'll hear more about Weston McKennie when it comes to scouting. I'll just add that I think, if anything, yes, it's a very good sign that he got a new contract. I'd also say it's a good sign that he got a new contract when he did. The fact that he's now made 2 consecutive starts for Schalke in the Bundesliga, and then he gets a new deal versus makes 2 consecutive starts, and then they're like, let's wait and see. Like, that would be the opposite of good.
Yeah, it's more like just confirmation that it's part of their long-term plans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all in on that.
And then the next question is Christian Politic part of Borussia Dortmund's long-term plans, or maybe vice versa? Are they part of his?
So just rumours started popping up in all the tabloidy places today about Pulisic being linked with, I think I saw Real Madrid, I saw Liverpool, I saw Arsenal, I saw Spurs. I can't find the root of all this. Why now? Because obviously transfer window just closed, 27 days ago? The new one doesn't open until January 1st. Champions League teams, if they sign him, they can't use him because he's already played for Dortmund in the Champions League. Yep. So I guess why is my question. I know you don't have the answer, but can we speculate?
I have a theory. I mean, my theory is just that I think he is the biggest name in American soccer right now, at least from like a PR global buzz standpoint.
To underline that, we did the Kickers v Rochester Rhinos commentary this past weekend.
Yep.
And I would say the biggest name there was Mark Pulisic, Pulisic's dad, who was assistant coach for Rochester.
There you go. Yeah.
That was the name that stood out to me.
You were a little bit like, okay, who's the new breakout player? Let's find him. But I do wonder if maybe that the U.S. market is big enough that tabloids can sell newspapers or can like get clicks.
Really?
Or at least get clicks to their sites.
Sun Online could probably get clicks from the US with a Pulisic headline.
Yeah, because it'll be posted up anywhere. And so I think sometimes...
Especially those like Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, US-based fans linked with Pulisic. Like him coming to your team is a big deal.
Yeah, and so I wonder if he's reached the point, or maybe the jumping off point is that he didn't start in the Champions League. And so anytime you have a player not starting in a seemingly very important match, it becomes sort of like, well, does he want to move? Do they not think he's very good enough? Is there something going on?
But we're not there yet, right? We're not
Absolutely not
saying that
at
all. Because he's just turned 19. He shouldn't expect to start every game. It wouldn't be good for him to start every game.
No, but it's the tabloids. And so I think that they will create, like, because you could easily create that spin of a story of he was very upset to have been left out and not start in that game, and the game was crying out for him, but he didn't get enough minutes to be able to turn it around, and now he's frustrated and maybe wants to move away. That's the easy, lazy, made-up tabloid story, and I wonder if that's part of it.
But we're not in on that at all. I mean, I still hold fast to the idea that the best place for Christian Pulisic right now is right where he is, Borussia Dortmund, at least for a couple more years. Like, if he does outgrow it in some weird way where he's just like far and away their best player and everybody else is interested in him, and it means if he moves he'll definitely start, then yes. But there's no point going to Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs right now if you're going to be sort of quite far down the pecking order.
No, although I will say, I think I have long held that, as you just said, that Borussia Dortmund is the place for him right now, that's where he should stay. It's where he's guaranteed to get the most minutes, if not all minutes. That said, Alexis Sanchez goes this summer, maybe. Maybe there is a hole on the wing that needs to be filled by a talented player who's proven himself to be capable in both the Bundesliga and the Champions League.
Interesting. Okay.
I would not love that, but it's a possibility.
We'll keep an eye on that, okay?
Sure.
We'll keep an eye on that. You ready for today's questions, Taylor? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions on today's show from listeners. We're always excited to do this. Obviously, today's a Champions League day. We did a Dortmund-Madrid review yesterday.
We did.
We will be reviewing the rest of the Champions League on Thursday's show when we've had time for the games to go into our eyes.
That makes sense. So with that said... First question comes from Andy Hollums. He says, quick question about free kicks. Why are teams sometimes allowed to take them quickly, while other times the ref stops the team from doing so? Can you help me understand the rules governing free kicks?
So, at a basic level, you can take a free kick quickly if you want to. What Andy's probably seen is the ref making players wait for the whistle before they're allowed to take it. What really happens is he only makes you wait for the whistle if you've asked for 10 yards, right? So if you want to make sure that the opposition players are 10 yards from your free kick, you can do that. You can ask the ref to enforce that, but then you have to wait for his whistle.
Right.
So as a general purpose, if you just want to take it quickly and you're not worried about how many yards away the players are, you can take it quickly if you want to.
Right. But then in that situation, you sacrifice that, like, if the player does step in front as you kick it and they're only 1 yard away, that's your fault for taking it quickly.
It was your own dumb decision for not asking for 10 yards. Yeah. Andy also had an example as well, right?
Yeah, so it came from the Houston Dynamo's game against NYCFC. The example was a Houston Dynamo goal against NYCFC this weekend. Dynamo player almost went Dynamo. Dynamo player fouled just outside the 18-yard box. Dynamo take it quickly and score while NYCFC players are still arguing the call. I, says Andy, have never seen a free kick from that close that didn't include a stoppage of play while a wall is set up.
So we went and watched this.
Yeah.
First of all, this probably should have been included in thumbs up, thumbs down. It would have been thumbs up for the quick free kick, thumbs down for NYCFC's defending.
It's not our fault. We couldn't find it because it was all the way up in Connecticut.
there wasn't public transport that went there. So I think this is a good example that Andy's picked up on, because normally from this spot, it's Alex is the Houston player who's fouled. It's right at the edge of the box. Normally you would have your free kick taker want to have a go at goal, so you would ask for the 10 yards every time from this spot. But I think that's why this quick free kick works, is because NYCFC are expecting that Houston will ask for the wall, and they just don't.
Or not even expecting, but just sort of like not paying attention to it. So it's basically they're complaining about the foul, there's players still down, and in this situation, Vicente Sanchez basically picks up the ball after the player's been fouled while everyone is still complaining, puts it down. I think he even directs Mauro Bonotas to continue his run, plays him through, and it's a goal.
There's definitely some sort of communication, because Bonotas starts going, right? And NYCFC are not ready for it at all. It's quick thinking, quick free kick, goal.
Yeah.
So we did some looking into the rules on this, right? And so that's the basic version we've outlined, is that you only have to wait for the referee's whistle if you've asked for 10 yards. And they call it a quick free kick versus a ceremonial free kick, which is a beautiful phrase for pacing out the 10 yards and waiting for the whistle. But it seems there's some sort of, not controversy, but some sort of different styles of refereeing, which do allow the ref to make you wait for the whistle if he chooses to do so.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, if he's trying to police the game, if there's a fight breaking out or if a player's injured, then he's not going to let you just play quickly, because that player might need treatment, those players might keep fighting.
Yeah, or if there's a card, I think if he wants to give a yellow card, can he make sure that you wait so he deals with that before he blows his whistle?
He has to put it in the book. So then, he'll make you wait there. And to some extent, you could argue that maybe he should have made them wait or retake this one, because, I mean, because he's basically talking to a player, the player who's conceded the free kick is down on the ground complaining, and there is a little bit of back and forth there. So you could make the argument that he is kind of policing the game, talking to some people, figuring some stuff out. So maybe he's involved in it. Who knows? Either way, it's still a goal.
Am I right in thinking, I don't know the official rules, but I've seen any time a ref does this, makes you wait for the free kick, though, he'll do kind of a hand gesture. It's almost like the gesture you make to a dog to wait. You just the palm, you show the palm of wait.
As far as I understand, it is his responsibility to say wait for the whistle.
That's what I mean, then he'll do that hand gesture, and that's why everyone will know.
But I'm saying he literally will say wait for the whistle. Even a hand gesture, it might not be enough.
So it's got to be a verbally wait for the whistle.
So usually, that's why they.
That a lot.
If you've noticed, sometimes they're very deliberate with you want 10 yards. Yes, I would like 10 yards. Okay, wait for the whistle, and then they will walk it off. But I've noticed that, especially recently. I wonder if maybe they've clarified the rules a little bit, that the official will very specifically state, you want 10 yards? As if it's a thing he has to say in order to move to the next part of the script.
It's just letting you know your rights, kind of.
Yeah, right? A little bit.
You can also just say, no, I'm going to take this real fast.
Yeah. I've never heard them say, do you want to take it quickly or slowly? Which is what some people said. I've always heard, you want your 10 or wait for the whistle, something like that. And then if you take it quickly, then that's your choice, but you can't complain anymore.
But sometimes you end up with a really nice goal,
there you go,
as Houston Dynamo did. So congrats to Vicente Sanchez for their quick free kick, and to Monatas, I believe how you pronounce it.
Mauro Monatas, yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to Andy Hollands for the question. All right, second question today comes from Eric Glassgold. Eric Glassgold wants to know, why did Barcelona choose Ernesto Valverde as their new coach? It's going well so far, right? I think 100% record, top of La Liga. But at the time, there was a lot of head scratching. Who's this guy? And then there's a lot of nervousness at the start of the season because there's all that Neymar stuff. I believe they lost the Spanish equivalent of the Community Shield to Real Madrid at the start of the season. It was looking bad, right? And maybe people had questions.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think that was about him. I think that was more about the Barca board, and those questions continue to linger.
They certainly do. So why did the Barca board, though, choose Ernesto Valverde as their coach this summer?
I would actually take a little bit issue with the way you describe that, because I think this was similar to a lot of times we see players coming from La Liga, and British pundits and American pundits are who's this guy? I've never heard of him. Whereas people in Spain have heard of him for quite a long time.
Because he's been around. Right?
Yes, and that is Ernesto Valverde, to the extent that Barcelona have actually approached him, I think, 3 different times to take over their gig.
You mean this time around, or in the past?
In the past. So I think after Pep Guardiola, they spoke to him, but then they ended up not appointing him. When Tito Villanova was first diagnosed with cancer, they approached him about stepping in, but then Villanova wanted to continue.
That's when Tata Martino took it.
And then after Tata Martino left, they approached him, but I believe he had already signed a long-term deal with Athletic Bilbao, and so he honored his
Club de Bilbao.
He honored his agreement and said, nope, I signed the agreement, I'm not leaving yet. Now he's left. Now he's with Barcelona. So he has a lot of experience in terms of being approached by Barcelona. He also has experience in terms of playing for Barcelona. He played for Barcelona from 1988 until 1990 under Johan Cruyff, which I think is an important aspect of why they wanted
so
him.
I read a lot of this. So I read a few articles from learned places when he was appointed, essentially saying that some of the best Barca coaches were the ones coached by Cruyff because they all say that their view of the game changed and they learned it from Cruyff. Pep Guardiola being the obvious example. Luis Enrique also, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, and so, I mean, and you look at the past few coaches, Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique, Tito Villanova played for Barcelona B. So there is that kind of history of players playing for Barcelona. But it's also, I think, so he has familiarity with the club, combined with, I think, his approach is what they were looking for, which is...
This is what I want to get into then. Why? Because I saw a few quotes about, his approach matches what we want to do at Barcelona. I have a sort of a theory, but it sounds like you've done more research. So
well, then do you want to do your theory first, or do you want me to go?
The very quick version of mine is that, he's happy to promote youth team players, and he has a record of doing that at Athletic Club de Bilbao, because you kind of have to, right, because of the Basque-only policy. And also that he plays basically a kind of high-pressing, fast-moving kind of game. Not quite a Jurgen Klopp type thing, but a sort of a move-the-ball-quickly type deal.
From what I understand, he plays what he has to play. And it's basically, he looks at the resources he has available and decides what's going to work. So if you have a big, tall striker, he's going to play maybe a little bit more direct than he would otherwise. If you've got a very
Andúrez, didn't he do that with Andúrez?
Aritz Adores, Except he's only 6 foot tall. So initially I thought it was you just bang it into the big guy who's 6'4". Maybe not so much. But... sometimes if you have a really creative number 10, you're going to play on the floor through him. So basically he's willing to adjust his approach to suit the talent he has. So he's not going to insist it has to be this, I need this player, I need this player, this player. He's going to adjust accordingly. On top of that, as you mentioned, then he's willing to bring in young players and emphasize possession when he does so. And from what I understand, we've talked about this before, one sort of creeping concern that Barca fans had about the Barca teams of late has been that basically you have that front three, get the ball to them, and they will combine and score a goal. But that leaves a lot to be desired in terms of midfield play, sustaining possession the way, say, Guardiola teams did. That's more so Valverde style.
It was a bit too MSN will solve everything in the past, right? And it seems like a more... I was going to say wholesome, but what I mean is holistic, more holistic style, right?
I mean, holistic is one, cohesive is another word I saw a lot, that he's all about squad cohesion, getting everybody to kind of buy in, play as a team, play as a unit, win as a unit.
And then I also, the reason I had the word wholesome in my head is that everybody seems to agree that Ernesto Valverde is a nice guy, and he'll bring sort of a calming influence to Barcelona. And when you look back through the Neymar transfer saga, unless that I've missed something, he was a cool head in the middle of all that. There's no big clash with Neymar. There's no, from what I can tell, there's been no Valverde arguing with players. I saw a quote this weekend that Jordi Alba just says, he's communicates really clearly what he wants to do. We all like him, and that's why it's working great.
But that goes back to the point.
Not an exact quote,
but that goes back to the point of he doesn't need specific players to do specific things. So it's not as though he took the job with this idea of Neymar's going to do this, and I'm going to use him in this way, and the entire team's going to be built around Neymar, and then they sold Neymar. It's more all right, well, if you sell him, I'm sure we'll get somebody else, and if we don't, we'll figure it out. That seems to be his approach. And the final point there is that approach has worked. Every year he coached Athletic Club de Bilbao, they qualified for Europe in one competition or another.
They finished 7th or above, so is that always Europa League at least?
Champions League or Europa League, So you keep that in mind as well. So he's got a proven track record with a smaller club with limited resources. So a larger club with infinite resources, you wonder if maybe he will be able to contend for the title and maybe the Champions League as well.
And he's also, from what I saw, he's got 2 spells with Olympiacos in Greece, and I think he did that just to get some practice lifting trophies.
It's a place to go to do that.
I feel like almost anyone could go and lift some trophies with Olympiacos in Greece. So you just went there to get a feel for it.
I think the only way that thesis would be completely confirmed is if he had also managed Celtic.
Current Celtic.
Then I'd be with you,
All right, do we feel like we've answered the Valverde question?
I think so.
I'm really glad that Eric asked this, because I hadn't done this research until he asked it. So thank you, Eric, for making me go do some reading, even if Taylor did more than me.
And then if I wanted to put a final point on it, I would add, though, that I do wonder if maybe he's thinking about it from a British club perspective or an English club perspective of why didn't they get why didn't they get Klopp or Guardiola or Mourinho or somebody, a big name. I don't think that's necessarily their style, at least of late. And you go back to when they were going for bigger names, Frank Rijkaard comes to mind. That did not work out very well.
Didn't it? No, Frank Rijkaard won the Champions League.
And then bombed out horrifically.
Oh, okay, but there were some good years.
And so then you look at the people who've had the most success, like Luis Enrique and Pep Guardiola. Those are kind of relatively unproven or not as heralded names on the managerial stage, but were able to achieve big things, and I think that's what they're expecting from Valverde.
And Valverde's that guy, but also with 10 years of managerial experience under his belt as well. And more, maybe more. He's doing fine.
He'll be just fine, I'm sure.
Okay, question about Jozy Altidore. Comes from Tom Holt. Tom Holt wants to know, should Jozy Altidore be a starter at the World Cup? Tom suggests no, because Altidore hasn't scored in qualifying. I watched him at Sunderland to the same effect. He is streaky, but his national team performance matches his club performance at Sunderland. This is half question, half accusation.
It is.
Should Jozy Altidore start at the World Cup, Taylor?
Well, the answer is yes. And I'll say, first of all, he has scored in qualifying. He has not scored in the Hex, which is kind of a distinction that needs to be made. He has 6 goals in World Cup qualifying. So to say that he hasn't scored there, not true. But I take his point, which is to say, but against tougher opposition on a consistent basis in qualifying, he hasn't gotten a goal.
And to give you the exact stats, he has played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Hex games, plus 10 minutes at the end of Mexico. No goals, 2 assists. Yeah.
Okay. So and I think with that, you do have this idea of like, oh, he's the lone striker playing up top by himself. He's the one that we're looking long to get on the end of balls and finish them and hold up and do all that stuff. And that's not really what he does. That's not what we expect from Jozy Altidore as a striker. We know he wants to drop in more and combine more and link up play. We know at times he's going to work really hard off the ball to like really cause problems. And I would say that's what he did against Honduras, for example. Didn't score in that game,
in the
but
6-0
was
win.
One of the more important players in there, even if he didn't get on the score sheet.
Yep. And the most recent game against Honduras, suspended for that late yellow card against Costa Rica, which I remember you and I being really frustrated about. So I'm with you. It seems you're leaning towards the idea that, I mean, one, Jozy Altidore, I don't think it's fair to say that Jozy Altidore's national team form is the same as his Sunderland form, right? He lit up the Gold Cup when he came into it. He has scored multiple times for the United States. He had a rough go of it at Sunderland, but I don't think those two things match. I also don't think you can just look at goal-scoring record in the Hex and say that kind of matches what he did at Sunderland, therefore that math doesn't add up.
That was
right?
Wasn't that also like 4 years ago or something like that? Like it also feels like, oh, I don't know, Thomas Muller had an unsuccessful loan stint 4 years ago, so should he really be starting for Germany? I don't know. Like, I mean, that move didn't work, but he's done plenty since then, both for club, for Toronto, and country, the United States, to cement his role as, I think, the number one automatic starter up top.
Here's where I get to, though. There is an argument that Jozy Altidore should not start in a World Cup game. But the argument is not that he's not the US's best striker. I think he is the US's best striker. I think if the US goes with one up top, like a sole striker in like a 4-2-3-1 maybe, then Jozy Altidore shouldn't start, because I don't think that suits him. I think it maybe suits someone like Bobby Wood more. If you play anything like a 4-4-1-1, or if you play sort of a 4-4-2 type system, then for me, Jozy Altidore 100% starts then. If it's a lone striker, then maybe you can ask questions about whether he's the right guy for it or not. But that's just more about his style of play as opposed to, is he any good? He was bad at Sunderland.
So then why would you go with Bobby Wood there?
I think so. I like the idea, if you've got a lone striker, you need that striker to be sort of pushed up on the last man, ready to run in behind all the time. Jozy Altidore, it's not his game. He does not like to do that. He likes to come deep and get touches, right? So that's why I think he needs to play with a partner who likes to be higher up the field than him. Then he's free to join that attacker, or he's free to come back and connect. I think that's the perfect role for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. But what I'm asking specifically is, like, are you saying Bobby Wood's skill set is more suited to doing that exactly?
Yes, he's still not perfect at it, but he's much more. I mean, he does it for Hamburg quite a lot, right? Where he's the only striker. He does it a lot more where he's happy to just like pin himself to a defender and risk being caught offside, but trying to get in behind. He's all about springing that trap, or kind of like just staying with that last defender and maybe having a quick touch off to other players. Whereas Jozy he comes to drift deep. He also, there is an accusation that he maybe, if he's left alone up top on his own, he starts to switch off a little bit because he's just not that happy up there.
Yeah. And so I think at the end of the day, I'll say this to Tom's question. Like, I understand why it's a question, though. Like, I'll put it that way. That, like, I think he probably starts because I think, in my opinion, he's the best option we have as like your starting striker. But I understand why there's some trepidation about it. I mean, he hasn't scored in the Hex. That is a little bit disconcerting. And there's the fact that he is a little bit streaky. Sometimes he's in insane form and can't stop scoring. And then sometimes maybe it's a little bit frustrating. And so I personally feel like he is a starter. But again, I can understand. I don't think it's like such an open shut book as, say, Michael Bradley. I think Michael Bradley is always going to be a starter for me, at least in the near future. And I know a lot of people disagree, but we're just going to disagree on that one.
That's a whole other question that we'll have in the future. I do like the part of Tom's question where he assumes that we're getting to the World Cup. That's the positive part.
Yeah, that's a good part.
But I think I fundamentally disagree with the idea that his US form is similar to his Sunderland form. Because at the very least, to make that argument, you have to like skip the Gold Cup knockout stages and skip other things, and you have to cherry pick just his Hex goal scoring.
I mean, but if you do want to go with that Sunderland point for a second, like lest we forget, a huge part of what was going on with Sunderland is that he wasn't getting any service, that he was being played as a lone striker, but had no one playing him the ball. It was usually like just hoofed balls up top that hopefully he would be able to settle. There was no good service from the wings. There wasn't much connective tissue through the middle. So, I mean, in that situation, sometimes it is like the U.S. where he doesn't really get much service, doesn't really have much around him, and there tend to be a lot of gaps in the attack. So maybe in that situation, there are some comparisons, but I would say, again, there are larger issues to be dealt with there.
All right. Oh, I should mention, I made an appearance on the Yanks Are Coming podcast. It was recorded this morning. It'll be published on Friday. We get into this Jozy Altidore question. We also get into some other US national team selection questions. It's with Neil Blackman, who I'm sure most people will be aware of from Yanks Are Coming. So please give that a listen on Friday. Also, lots more USA World Cup qualifier talk coming on the Total Soccer Show, at least either later this week or early next week, because that game's coming.
That'll work for me.
It's a week on Friday.
Sounds good to me, my friend.
All right, we got one more question to go, but first, the SeatGeek ad. SeatGeek are back for their second ad in a row. They're going to be sponsors with us for a good few weeks. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated, but there's a better, simpler way to buy with SeatGeek, the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events. So you can sort of buy and sell tickets via the SeatGeek app. Taylor and I like to scroll through the SeatGeek app and see what may be available. What entertainment options are available through SeatGeek?
Well, I was looking at more MLS matches. I wanted to see what it would be like to go to, say, an Atlanta United match at their, I guess we've now maybe been corrected, not soccer-specific stadium.
I think it is. Someone suggested that it wasn't because there's turf and not grass, but I don't think that's disqualifying.
They've got
Sorry, Jim Broshaw.
They've got a few more matches at home this year for varying price levels. I would say if I were going to go to one, I would go to the final one on October 22nd of the regular season, final one. Toronto FC traveling to Atlanta United to play Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can get tickets there for $42, which I'm going to say for the final home game of this season for Atlanta in the regular season. Noting.
We're assuming they maybe make the playoffs, right?
I would assume they definitely do. So, I mean, $42 to me, I would pay that.
Okay.
Get to see some Michael Bradley and some Jozy Altidore and everything Atlanta's got going on. Hopefully Miguel Almiron back from injury as well.
And especially because it seems like that Atlanta stadium sells out pretty fast. SeatGeek is a great place to get tickets to things that have sold out because somebody is selling their ticket. I think SeatGeek has the biggest name recognition for that kind of thing. So you definitely will be able to find tickets via SeatGeek. If you just tap your way through the app, it's nice and easy. Listeners can get tickets through SeatGeek app and they can get $20 off their first purchase, but only on one condition, Taylor.
What's that, Daryl?
It's that they download the SeatGeek app, they click the settings tab, and they enter the promo code TSS for Total Soccer Show. The promo code is TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So, for example, that Atlanta-Toronto game would now be $22.
There we are.
Once you get the $20 rebate.
Once you get the rebate. So thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. We very much appreciate it.
Next question, Taylor.
Yep.
Next question comes from Craig Allison. Craig Allison has a question which, for reasons I'll explain, I'm going to throw to you mostly, Taylor. It's to both of us, but I'm going to throw it to you. What is your coaching philosophy? What do you tell your adult team? Defense first, avoid mistakes, aggressive, physical, etc. Craig says, I've never played on a team with a coach, so I'd appreciate to hear your approach. Okay, quick background on this is that Taylor and I run an adult team here in Richmond, the street soccer team, which we call HPFC. I'm kind of the administrator / organizer. Taylor is our head coach. So over to you, coach.
I'd say the four tenets of my philosophy would be shut up, work hard, keep your shape, stay positive.
Shut up, work hard, keep your shape, stay positive.
Not necessarily in that order, but kind of in that order.
But let's go through them in order.
Sure.
First, why is shut up your first directive?
Because adult soccer...
I don't feel like that's a fair representation of how you coach, because that makes it sound like you're always just yelling at people in a military style to shut up. You're a lot more friendly than that.
No, I don't, because I don't even mean in like the don't talk back or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, don't get into it with refs, don't get into it with the other team.
Oh, okay.
That's number one. But it really is number one because especially in adult soccer, you're an adult, so you're going to have maybe more conversations with the referee than, say, you would have when you were a timid 13-year-old.
Yep.
So I think a lot of times players can lose their cool and lose their focus because they get frustrated by a bad call or too many calls or what have you. Same thing for if you get fouled by a player. Like, so often I'll see people get fouled, and then the player who's fouled them says, like, oh, come on, ref, that was a dive. And you have that moment of, like, it was not a dive. I have the marks on my ankle to prove it. And then you kind of, again, you can lose your cool. And a thing that, yeah, exactly, Daryl shows me the marks on his leg. I've got plenty of those right now as well. So I think that can be a point that really costs players focus and really can hurt teams, because if everyone starts to yell at the referee, suddenly every decision that goes against you, it feels like everything's terrible.
Or at the opposition players. If you find yourself talking in an argument with an opposition player, you are losing. You are losing the mental battle because you're not focused on everything else that's happening. I feel like I've sort of given this lecture before once on TSS, so I'm going to back off and not deliver it again. What was your second point?
Work hard.
Work hard. Okay, that sounds too obvious to me. I'm hoping that you have a sort of a
you say that
version of it.
You say that, but I mean, like, how often have we had teams where we're like, look, we have 8 subs right now. If you're tired, ask for a sub. But people feel like that's maybe it's a pride thing, maybe it's like a machismo thing, maybe it's just like, I want to make sure I get to play a half. But either way, it becomes then about you, the individual, versus the team. And if you are no longer able to function at 100 or 75% or whatever, and you're slowly jogging back into position, it's going to cost the team.
If we see your energy bar on orange, coming out.
I mean, and so, like, again, if you're tired, that's fine. Get a sub, sit out for 10 minutes. Somebody else will probably need a sub. But if it's just that you're lazy or you're not really doing what's asked of you, that's a bigger problem, which leads to, I think, point number 3, keep your shape.
Keep your shape.
And that, again, it's basically, this is maybe a larger one that has, like, several offshoots. But we talked about all the time with HBFC that pick a shape,
that's our
pick
team,
a formation,
HBFC.
Stick with it. And don't do a 4-2-3-1 and then midway through be like, you know what, never mind, we're going to do a back 3 now. We're going to try this, or we're going to try that. And like, it's just too tempting in the moment to be like, oh, they have one forward, so we should switch to this, or we should try. Like, you make little adjustments here or there. Or they've got one really good creative playmaker. Let's make sure we always have somebody on him. But you don't put 2 more midfielders in the middle to try to crowd the middle. That's the very drastic, like, FIFA football manager approach to things that actually does not work.
I would argue, so I've been on a lot of adult teams, and a lot of, like, every team has had some sort of formation, right? But the least successful teams are the teams that just say, we're playing a 4-3-3, or we're playing a 4-2-3-1, but that's all that's ever said about it. And like, if it's not working, like you said, they'll go, all right, we're going 3-4-3. And it's just a series of numbers that gives you a rough idea, but none of that has ever been perfected. So yeah, I like the idea. This doesn't necessarily work for professional or national team things, so I think things do need changing in a bigger and different way because people have a bigger understanding of tactics at that level. At a Sunday league level that we're playing at, the best thing you can do is have a formation, have a shape, and then everybody knows what their role is within that system. Then you can be successful because you can be the most organised team, which is kind of how we're succeeding mostly with HPFC.
Yeah, it's because if everybody is if your left back is playing left back every week and your holding midfielder is playing holding midfield every week, they come to learn the patterns. They know who they're playing with. They have the same people playing around them. But suddenly, if you have your holding midfielder, now you're going to play center back. I know you were left back, but now you're going to be the holding midfielder, and you holding midfielder are now the forward. Like, if you keep changing that stuff, no one ever gets into a rhythm. You never learn those patterns of play that you really need to be able to function as like a cohesive team.
Can I sidetrack us with some patterns of play stuff?
Sure.
Because I think that's important. Some of the things we do, I'm hoping opposition players don't listen to this, but there's nothing major here, right? We do pressing, right? Our 4-2-3-1, we press. We encourage all of our players to press. Everybody knows that we're pressing, so the whole team does it all the time. It's really effective. If you can do it, like, just everybody man mark, one person goes man mark to the ball, everybody's covered. Teams at our level will definitely cough the ball up, and away we go.
I see teams at a lot of levels. I mean, we do it with our like more competitive indoor team. We do it with like my other very competitive outdoor team, and I think we're so much better than thinking, okay, everybody's sitting back, we've got everybody behind the ball, we've clogged up some passing lanes, now they're not going to be able to score. Especially at amateur level, like, no, people will be able to find a way through because it's much more individualistic, I would say. Whereas if you're putting people under pressure, like we had this last Sunday, for example. They had one very fast player. They kept trying to play the ball over the top. You're not going to be able to stop that guy from being fast. He's just fast. You can do one of two things. You can not play as high of a line, but again, as you said, we're playing high pressure, so you got to keep the high line. So the more obvious solution, but it's sometimes less obvious, is put the guy playing the long ball under pressure. It was the same creative playmaker trying to lift the ball. But we kept giving him 3, 4, 5 seconds to pick his head up, spot that runner, take a touch, get in the right position, then play that ball. If you cut that in half and suddenly he doesn't have that extra touch, he's trying to play it under a little more duress, a little less certainty, he's not going to play as clean of a long ball through.
Agreed. I'm a big I'm a big proponent of get your offside line tight. Right? The best way to catch people offside is not to be like, oh, it doesn't work, we'll do something else. Just make it better. Make sure everybody steps. Make sure you've got someone calling it all out. Make sure it works.
You should probably tell Borussia Dortmund that.
Yeah, I should talk to Top Rack. The other thing we do on that team is we ask our striker to try and play with his back to goal as much as possible, which sounds obvious, but again, at an amateur level, you get a lot of the striker just always wants to run in behind, and then you tempt your team into always trying through balls, which are not always successful. If you can ask your forward to play with his back to goal, you can almost make sure that your team starts passing, because then you play it into the forward, he lays it off, suddenly you're building triangles, you're building passes around the top of the box, suddenly you're playing good soccer.
You are not wrong, my friend. All right. And with all that said, my final point, stay positive, because it's just an easy one, but it's really important. It's maybe more important than any of the other ones I mentioned. It's just that if you play on a team where if Daryl shoots from outside the box and I'm all mad because I thought I was open, if I just like Daryl, what are you doing? And I scream at you and then somebody else screams, like suddenly you're the team that is always yelling at each other. You don't want to play for that team, and you certainly don't want to play together. You end up playing in a way that, like, I hope I don't get yelled at this time, and then you're not making the smart decisions, and you're also not making the kind of ruthless decisions that you sometimes have to make. Sometimes you're not going to play me that through ball because you don't think I am open, but you'll wait and you'll find another pass. I might have my feelings hurt for like a quarter second or whatever. I might be like, oh, he should have passed that. But then you'll make a different pass, and I'll be like, oh, no, that made sense, and now we scored a goal. But if I'm sitting there sulking and throwing my hands up in the air and no longer contributing, I've taken myself out of the game, and I've also then like negatively impacted your psyche as well.
Exactly. No, I think it's a big thing. On a Sunday team, it's really important to stay positive when you're coaching and sort of encourage all your players, especially your weaker players, right, who need the encouragement that you know that the weaker players are like a little concerned about, am I doing this right? When they are, tell them, encourage them, praise them.
Because I'll say, like, my really competitive team played a better team. Like, they're just a better team from a talent standpoint last night. We beat them, and they should have at least scored another goal against us. But one of their players got so mad he didn't get the ball that he stopped his run to yell at the guy who didn't play him the ball. And then the ball was crossed into him. But because he stopped, he wasn't where he should have been. If he had continued his run, he was wide open to the back post and onside. But because he stopped and was all frustrated, the ball went out for a throw-in for us. And so it's moments like that as well, where if you start to get negative and get all annoyed and in your head, you stop focusing on what you should be doing.
Can I offer a final thing, which I think is a thing we do with HPFC? It's a thing that more teams should do. Get organised, get there early.
Yeah, man.
Right? Get there early. At least 30 minutes before kickoff, I think is realistic. Maybe 45 if you can, in a Sunday League team, because then you get a chance for, one, to warm up and stretch, but two, to talk about what the plan is. Remind your players what the plan is, because people need reminding, right? They need reminding, hey, remember, we press. And there's not one guy who's like, oh yeah, I forgot that we did that. So everybody get on the same page, get there early, get organised. If you have players come late, let them know they're not supposed to do that. Maybe don't let them play for the half.
Because I want to add this. So many teams that start, I think we've talked about this before, but it's worth reiterating. So many teams that start in our league think that, like, oh, well, a match day squad is 16 or 18 in the pros, so that's all we need on the roster.
Oh.
You forget that the official roster for a club is 25, 26, and then you've got the players who don't make it but could be called up. Like, they've got 30, 40, however many players capable of being played in any given game. Like, you got to have more than 14 or 15 players, because people are going to get injured. People are not going to show up. People are going to show up hungover. Like, you're going to have those moments. And I have played in so many games where we were hoping we got a seventh player so we could actually finish. And that was when I was like 23 and I was cool with it. Now, if we don't have 11, I'm like, oh, I might be ready to wave the flag on this one.
So get lots of people on your roster. Get everybody there early. That seems like good advice to me. Good coaching philosophies to have.
And final thing, and we are like kind of under pressure, but I just want to add this, because at the end of the day, like, it is an intimidation thing. And if you 15 minutes before the game is supposed to start, if you have 18 people there ready to go, and the other team has 7, 8, 9, there is sort of like, oh boy, like, we're in for it. They're organized. We better get together really fast. And so I think that's another reason why you want to have that sort of organization and the team organizer, which is Daryl Grove for HPFC.
I am good at sending the emails and the texts. If you'd like to ask a question, go to totalsoccershow.com/questions. If you subscribe to the show at $10 a month or higher, we guarantee to answer at least one question a month.
That we do.
There's a question in there about goalkeepers that we couldn't answer today because it needed a little bit of research. The person who asked that knows who they are. We will get to that, I promise. Final section on today's show, the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. All right, Taylor.
Many reports to get to. We'll start off with James Jones scouting Andrew Carlton, 17-year-old American winger for Atlanta United. As expected, Andrew was included on the 21-man squad for the U17 World Cup, along with Atlanta United teammates Justin Garces and Chris Goslin. A potential 4-3-3 of Josh Sargent, Timothy Weah, and Andrew Carlton should be a formidable attacking lineup.
Will be a formidable attacking lineup. For more on that team, listen to the Top Draw Soccer Show. So Taylor interviewed Travis Clark, or talked to Travis Clark for Top Draw Soccer Show. They went through the entire team, position by position. If you want to get knowledge about the U17s, that's the place to do it.
And I would say that Travis might take issue with they will do that. Just throwing that out there, because I think he has it as Timothy Weah coming on as the substitute.
Oh, interesting. Akinola starting, maybe?
There it is.
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe I didn't listen all the way through.
There you go.
I only got to midfield, I think. All right, Andy Hollums is scouting Julian Green, the 22-year-old American winger for Greuther Fürth. That's where he's on loan, right? Green had several chances, but couldn't capitalise as Greuther Fürth lost 3-1 to FC Nuremberg on Sunday in the Franconia derby. Despite the defeat, it's encouraging that Green is starting and getting chances, even if it is in 2 Bundesliga. Andy Hollums, I love your optimism.
Tim Higgins scouting Gianluca Busio, 15-year-old American attacker for Sporting KC. Over the weekend, the SKC U19s beat the Colorado Rush, I'm assuming that's their U19 team, 7-1, and lost to the Rapids U19s 4-3. Busio scored a goal in that thrashing of the Rush, but had a goal called back due to a handball against the Rapids, though he did still get an assist later on. Not a bad weekend for a 15-year-old playing against older and bigger competition.
Yeah, fair enough. Sean Dickey is scouting Weston McKennie, the 19-year-old American centre midfielder for FC Schalke. McKennie made his second consecutive start, playing 74 minutes, Schalke's 2-0 loss to Hoffenheim. We know this, right? After the match, Schalke coach Domenico Tedesco said the following about McKennie. I haven't seen this yet. Quote, "It was his second game in a row in the starting 11. He did well and defended from the front," unquote. Due to the current injury woes to Nabil Bentaleb and lack of depth in midfield, it seems McKennie is in line for plenty of minutes this season. I didn't know about the Bentaleb injury.
Nor did I.
That's obviously bad news for Nabil, but good news for Weston McKennie.
This is true. Andy Hollums scouting Daryl Grove, 37-year-old English defender for the Total Soccer Show. Last week, Daryl was actually having a good show. I added the actually. Exhibiting his usual podcaster door. Ballon d'Or? Podcaster door.
Yes.
Level analysis, insight, and puns. But in discussing the Atlanta United v Orlando City match, Daryl let loose quite a howler when he gave a thumbs down to the awesome train whistle goal celebration at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Given his otherwise exemplary career, I'm not too worried about this one incident, but all the same, Taylor might want to have Travis Clark warming up on the sidelines just in case.
So, I'm still not a fan of the train whistle.
And you're still wrong.
But can we confirm now that it is a train whistle then?
We can.
Because you disagreed with me.
I think at the end I conceded when I was realizing it was the Terminus Legion and all that good stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Josh Bonet is scouting Sam Johnston, the 24-year-old English goalkeeper on loan at Aston Villa from a little team called Manchester United.
I've heard of them.
Josh says Johnston had another efficient performance with very few calls to action in Villa's 2-1 win over Forest. His highlights include a rather unorthodox kick save that reminded me of 2012 De Gea and a spectacular-looking one-handed save from a free kick, which admittedly was far enough out that you would have questioned it had it beaten him. In the end, he put in another pragmatic, steady performance that you'd request from your goalkeeper without exhibiting the high ceiling you'd hope to see every now and then.
It's a demanding scouting report from Josh. John Fernandez scouting Borja Mayoral, 20-year-old Spanish striker for Real Madrid. Mayoral is the main backup to Karim Benzema if Zinedine Zidane plays with a true striker. As a result, Borja has made 4 substitute appearances in La Liga and 1 in the Champions League. He got a big break against Sociedad starting up top, scoring a great poacher's goal and playing a prominent role in Madrid's second.
But it seems when the big games come around, they go Ronaldo and Bale up top if there's no Benzema, right? Sean Mack is scouting Matthew Olasunde, the 19-year-old American right-back for Manchester United. Olasunde started and put up an impressive display in the first half against Derby County in Premier League 2, including 1 crucial blocked shot.
Hooray.
Unfortunately, he went down in a lot of pain at the end of the first half and was taken off on a stretcher with an apparent serious ankle/lower leg injury. The expected time off is a serious blow to his ambition of making his debut for the first team, having travelled for the Premier League fixtures against Arsenal and Spurs last season. American fans should be keeping an eye on Olasunde.
And also on Lyndon Gooch, scouted by Justin Herring. Lyndon Gooch, the 21-year-old American attacking midfielder for Sunderland. Gooch was in the starting 11 in Sunderland's recent 2-1 loss to Cardiff. In the 53rd minute, Sunderland won a penalty, and Gooch, one of, if not the most inexperienced players on the field, steps up to take it and convert it to level the score at 1-1.
All right, well, thank you to Andy, James, Andy, Tim, Sean, Josh, John, Sean, and Justin for today's scouting reports. If you'd like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, we encourage you to support the show and do so at totalsoccershow.com/join.
That we do.
If you go $10 a month or more, we guarantee to answer a question on the show.
That we also do.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow with a Champions League roundup.